Resistance is sneaky. It shows up as procrastination, perfectionism, or even fear, keeping you stuck in a loop of self-doubt and missed opportunities. You see, the harder you fight it, the deeper you sink, like quicksand pulling you under. But what if the struggle isn't the problem? What if the way out isn't fighting harder, but learning to listen? Here's the truth that most people won't admit. Resistance isn't going anywhere. That voice in your head, the one that says, this isn't the right time. Or it might even say, you don't have what it takes. It has mastered the art of keeping you stuck. But resistance doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to stop you. Most people fight resistance and lose. They push harder, avoid the uncomfortable, or numb themselves with distractions. But resistance isn't the enemy. It's the compass pointing you to the breakthrough you're afraid to face. What if fighting resistance is the very thing keeping you stuck, but not the actual resistance itself? What if the secret to freedom isn't conquering it, but partnering with it? In this video, I'll show you how to turn resistance into your greatest superpower, a quiet guide that helps you strengthen your resilience every time it shows up. Resistance doesn't have to hold you back. It can help you move forward. So let's dive in. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Francis. I'm a clinical therapist and a plant medicine integration coach. And my sole mission in life is to provide you with the tools and the resources to transform your life, powerfully transform your life so that you can actually live a life without fear, with alignment, confidence, and absolute joy. All right, so before we dive into this video, let's revisit the journey that we've been on together. So in part one of this series, we uncovered resistance as the invisible force that keeps you stuck. We've reframed it as a teacher pointing to where growth is possible. And in part two, we explored the root cause of resistance, linking it to your nervous system and how fear hijacks your sense of safety. We learned to calm that fear, creating the clarity and stability to move forward. In part three, we talked about alignment, where your actions flow naturally from your values. Alignment isn't just the bridge to freedom, it's the state where joy becomes inevitable. Now that we've explored resistance, its roots, in the nervous system, and how to find alignment, it's time for the final step, transforming resistance into growth. This is where the real magic happens, where the very thing that once held you back became your fuel for your transformation. Each of these videos has brought us closer to this moment, where resistance stops being something you avoid and becomes the very thing that propels you forward. So today, we'll take the final step and let's turn resistance into growth. Have you ever felt like you're running in circles, questioning every decision, wondering if you've taken a wrong turn in life? I have. Hey, me. I was 35 and I found myself sitting in a TEFL classroom surrounded by a bunch of young people, working on my certification to teach English as a foreign language. And I remember feeling pretty embarrassed at the time, thinking, what am I doing here? Am I failing at life? Am I having a midlife crisis? Like, what's happening? And I remember judging myself very harshly at that time. Although I was on this beautiful island in Thailand, I felt a little bit embarrassed. Here I was, a graduate degree and years of work experience, about to earn less, much less than half my previous salary. And it felt like I had taken a wrong turn. But looking back, I now see it so differently. Resistance had pushed me in that direction because what I was avoiding at the time I didn't really know it, but I thought I was running away from something. And there were times where I was, but I realized sometimes it feels like you're running away from something when in actuality, it's taking you to right where you need to be. Resistance was taking me toward the freedom I sought. During those years, I refined skills I didn't know I had, such as just public speaking, presenting, connecting with people, learning to be by myself. I got to travel the world and discover parts of myself I didn't even know were missing. Whenever I feel resistance, and trust me, I still do, I've learned to pause and ask, what is this resistance here to teach me? Sometimes resistance shows up because what I'm about to do is out of alignment with my values. We talked about that in the last video. Oftentimes it's my perfectionism saying, what if it's not good enough? And of course, yeah, there's sometimes a bit of fear there. You know, the fear of being judged or even misunderstood. But what I've realized is that resistance is not meant to throw you off course. It reflects parts of you that are afraid to grow, afraid to be seen, afraid to take the leap. And most of all, it reflects wounded elements of your inner child. So when I catch myself spiraling, I remind myself this isn't about you. And this is just my mantra to snap me out of it. Of course, find one that anchors you. But I say, this isn't about you. And without fail, someone will send me a message saying, you don't know how much I needed to hear this today. And in that moment, I remember my work isn't just for me. It's for the one person who needed that message, who needed that video, or or even that email. I wholeheartedly believe the time you spend discovering yourself is never wasted. Even when it feels like you're lost, you're most likely heading exactly where you're meant to go. Here's something else I realized. Resistance is never random. It's the alarm bell your soul rings when you're living out of alignment. It doesn't show up to sabotage you. It shows up to save you, to demand that you pay attention to the parts of yourself you've been ignoring. Resistance is that superpower that helps you get super clear. When you combine emotional healing, nervous system regulation, and spiritual alignment, resistance transforms in the most remarkable way. As Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Resistance is that cave, and every small step you take toward it leads you closer to your treasure. So how do you break free from resistance? How do you magnify it as your ultimate superpower and turn it into the momentum you need to grow? It starts with small intentional actions, steps that shift your energy and help you reclaim your power. It can be a curious friend or a heavy burden. That decision is all yours to make. So let's dive into 3 practical ways to start partnering with resistance and begin building a more aligned and less fearful life. The first step is have a conversation with your inner child. I believe that everything comes from our wounded inner child. And if we can begin to get into the head and the heart of our inner child, that will help heal so many different things in our lives. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the inner child. I did a whole course on that. So again, the first one is have a conversation with your inner child. So when resistance shows up, it's often your inner child crying out saying, I'm scared. I don't feel safe. I don't want to do this. Instead of silencing that voice, lean in. Ask, what are you afraid of? What do you need from me? Spend 10 minutes writing a letter to your inner child about the resistance that it's been feeling. Let them express their fears and reassure them that you've got their back. End with one promise to yourself, something loving and supportive that you'll do this week to thrive beyond resistance. Adult tantrums look a bit different. Sometimes they look like Karen at the Walmart supermarket. Other times they look like staying up late. You know you need to rest. It could even look like choosing someone else's needs over yours, especially when it matters the most, getting distracted with other things. Remember, everything that is laying beneath the subconscious mind needs to come out of the darkness. It needs to gain recognition before it can be realigned and healed. And now here's the second inspired action step. Clear your energy to create space for growth. Letting go sounds simple, but let's be honest, it's one of the hardest things to do. Why? Because we're emotionally attached to our patterns, our habits, even the ones that hurt us. Guilt ties us to the past. Stress convinces us we're not doing enough. And emotional baggage says, what if you need this someday? But here's the truth. Growth requires space. Clutter, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or even spiritual, blocks the flow of energy you need to grow. When your energy is clouded by negativity or stress, it lowers your vibrational frequency, which can perpetuate feelings of powerlessness. An overburdened energetic system can leave you feeling scattered, overwhelmed, and out of control. So clearing your energy restores clarity and balance, allowing you to take intentional, aligned action rather than reacting from a place of chaos. Energetic entanglements with like people, situations, and even environments can actually drain your energy and make you feel powerless or even obligated. So clearing it is not just about letting go. It's also about severing ties with whatever no longer serves you. And most importantly, it's about creating space for something new and better to enter your life. If you already started moving through the Lighten Up checklist, then you've already started your release weeks ago. If you haven't, it's not too late. You can start today. Start right where you are. Download the free checklist in the description below. All right, so here are the things that you can do to help clear your energy. Your space reflects your mind. Take one room, one drawer, or even a shelf, and let go of what you no longer need. Things that you're still holding on to. Physical clutter often mirrors emotional clutter. So let's get rid of some stuff. This one's tough, but it's essential. Pay attention to relationships that drain your energy instead of filling your cup. Well, I would say overflowing, right? Your relationship should be overflowing with positive and loving energy. So think of those relationships that are draining. And it's not about cutting people off completely, but can you set some boundaries that protect your peace? So the last inspired action is choosing one small thing. Transformation doesn't require a giant leap. Too often we believe we need to make massive strides on our healing journey. And when we don't, we feel stuck, disappointed, and paralyzed by inaction. So this is your reminder. Stop waiting for the home runs. It starts with one small, courageous step. Each action that you take creates momentum, turning resistance into growth. I had a client who had a really hard time taking small steps because she felt like they were insignificant. She didn't buy into the whole simplification of it all. And I don't blame her, because we've been primed to see change as this huge, drastic, sweeping experience, when in reality, it's in the micro decisions that you make one small moment at a time. Because while you're waiting for that giant leap, that home run to occur, you're actually missing out on opportunities. You're missing out on living life. And it really is that simple. Just because it's small doesn't mean it's not powerfully shifting the energy around you. So choose one action that feels expansive but doable. Send that email, spend 15 minutes on something creative that feels good to you, that you've been probably putting off for a while, something that you might have felt guilty for doing it. And before you act on these small acts of courage, say to yourself, this is my act of growth. Consider practicing more assertive and empowering language towards yourself. Encourage yourself. Be your own cheerleader. It's not always easy to shift the way that we speak to ourselves, but even small changes can begin to build self-trust and confidence. So be gentle with yourself as you make this a habit. Every little bit counts. So each of these inspired action steps helps you to turn resistance into growth by understanding your emotions, letting go of what no longer serves you, and reconnecting with your truest self. Resistance isn't here to stop you. It's here to show you what's possible and guide you towards the life you're meant to live. I check in with my resistance all the time, because it's always like, what's up? What's up? And there might be a window where it wants to pull me back into the dumps. So it's a practice. It's a dance that we do without self-judgment or blame. Instead of avoiding resistance, lean into it. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this resistance? What fear or belief system is behind it, underneath it? It becomes a superpower because it's giving you all the intel you need on what's going on inside of you. And so this awareness clarifies your priorities, gives you the courage to act. It's really about reframing your relationship with resistance, because when you're facing resistance, it slowly teaches you resilience. It's like a mental workout. Leaning into and through discomfort strengthens your ability to handle challenges. Recognize that every time you move through resistance, you're training your mind and your heart to be more adaptable and courageous. Again, y'all, this is a practice, okay? This is a practice. It's about consistently deciding to realign yourself with seeing the highest and best version of yourself. But you want to know what's super interesting? Breaking through resistance sets a powerful precedent. Once you overcome it in one area, you gain the confidence to tackle other challenges in your life, because now you have a point of reference that you can revisit over and over again. Say, yeah, I did that. I remember doing that. I remember how it feels. So if this resonates with you, I want to invite you to join me in the Resistance Reset, Overcome Fear, and Align Your Life. This is my 8-week beta group coaching offering. Together, we'll go deeper into these practices, clearing resistance and aligning with more clarity and confidence to create lasting transformation. This offering is really about taking what holds you back and turning it into the fuel that propels you forward. Spots are limited because there will be opportunities for one-on-one, so it's not going to be a big group. And everyone who joins on the wait list gets 50% off. The link is in the description below. And we begin in March, fully aligned with the spring season. So click the link in the description below and let's make resistance your greatest strength. But we're not done yet. Next week, we're going to explore self-trust, one of the most overlooked keys to breaking through resistance. If you've ever doubted your ability to follow through or make the right choices, trust me, you are not by yourself in this one. We'll dive into why it matters and how to rebuild it. So you don't want to miss this one, okay? So be sure, be here next week. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the other side of change.